This room, by the way, was designed in 1969 by Claes Anselm, and that's the same architect who designed Konsthallen, which is one of my favorite rooms in the city. And it's interesting when you're here, because this is built 6 years before Konsthallen, and I think you can see some embryos and some sort of things he did here that also exist in Konsthallen, even though it's completely different rooms. And somebody who had the privilege to work here on an everyday basis is our next speaker. Maria Bergius, she's a priest in the Lutheran Church of Sweden, and she works as a university chaplain at Malmö University. And today she's going to talk about communication and relationships from 3 perspectives: within ourselves, with other humans, and with God. Please give it up for Maria Bergius.
Hi everyone, welcome to my church. As a Lutheran and as a priest, I have the privilege of being able to and standing in a tradition that has always used information technology, whether it be music, books, or these days social media, as a means to talk about a message, about what the inside should look like. And there's not only a practical aspect to this. It's only, let's use what we have. It's also something that's deeply at the core of who we are. So I thought I'll just start at the very beginning, not the beginning of this book, and not the beginning of history, but with a quote that's pretty much at the basis of what we do. The context is, Jesus is in the temple in Jerusalem. This is the holiest place on earth. It's the place where God actually lives, right? But he's not right there in God's living room. He's at the edge. He's in the woman's courtyard, which was the main courtyard where everyone had access. So he's there. He's not a friend of the powers that be. They're kind of annoyed because of this barefoot preacher that's questioning everything. So he's sitting down in this beautiful, beautiful space. It's a pretty new temple. It was built by Herod the Great, who, by the way, tried to kill Jesus as a baby. So he's in a very liminal space, and one that is dominated by enemies. And he's there with a couple of his friends. And then the other people show up, and they start to question him. This is sort of like a schoolyard experience thing, you know, when you're the sore thumb, the one that's sticking out, and you can see the crowd coming, and you know this is going to be painful. So they question him on everything. And after a while, one of the scribes come near and heard them disputing with one another. I think disputing in this case is probably a polite word for yelling. And seeing that he answered them well, Jesus is standing his ground, obviously. He asked him, "Which commandment is the first of all?" Jesus answered, "The first is, 'Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength.' The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." So the first part of this is what's called the Shema Israel. It's as close as a creed you can get in the Jewish faith. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and all your strength. And then you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So, what does this have to do with communication? With with all of your heart, all of your emotions, everything that makes you tick, everything that makes you buzz, everything that makes you burn for something, right? And with all of your mind, all of your amazing powers of communicating, all of your amazing powers of learning, everything that makes you develop to be better, to be bigger, to get in touch with your dreams. That's your mind. With your soul, with everything that gives you reason for being. The thing that gets you up in the morning. The thing that makes you hope that tomorrow will be better. The thing that makes you look at your kids and say, these are better people than I was. And the future might look awful, but my kids will make it slightly better. And with all your strength, your body, right? All of that which you carry into the world. You're supposed to love God with all of this. So that's all of you and your neighbor as yourself. So there, you need to be in relationship with yourself. Love yourself. You need to be in relationship with your neighbor as much as with yourself. And you need to be in relationship with God. Those three things are at the core of faith and the core of what I do. So therefore, this communication, this relationship that is at the core of everything that we believe is, of course, then the reason why we use these means of communication to communicate a belief system. But I think this is something that is at a deeply human level necessary for everyone. You might be a believer or not. You might have a different set of beliefs. But to be in communication with yourself, what you believe, what you want to learn, what you dream, to be in communication with other people, as we have heard, this is necessary for a human being. And to be in communication with some kind of idea, something that drives you, something that you believe in, something that you want to be true, is necessary and deeply common for us as human beings. So we make music. We make music, we make art, we make buildings, we dress, we talk. All of this in an effort to connect with this other thing, with other people, with ourselves, or with the idea, the thing that carries you through your everyday life, that makes you hope that it's going to be great in the end. In the Lutheran churches, we refer to Johann Sebastian Bach as the fourth evangelist, right? The fifth evangelist. This was a test, y'all, and I failed. There are four evangelists, and there's Johann. Just as we tend to refer to coffee as the third sacrament. This says something about us. And it says something about humans. So there are instances when words don't speak well. And it kind of pains me as my formal title as a priest is Verbi Divini Minister, the servant of the divine word. Nice, huh? It's actually a pretty spiffy title. It's sort of one of those that you want to put on a card, but it seems a bit pretentious. But it's an awesome title. I'm a servant of the divine word. That's what I do. Some of this. But I have to admit that words and communication are not always most efficiently done. Communication is not always most efficiently done through words. So therefore we have music. Therefore we sing. Lutherans are famous for hymn singing. That's why I really loved your book. She asked me before, was this heretical? And I was like, hell no. It's awesome. We love when people use the ideas to talk about other ideas. It's amazing. That's why we do art, because to some people the listening and the singing is not what connects them to their own true self, to other people, and to this great idea that might be your deity. So we use art, visual art, and sound art. And we use buildings for that place of connection, where people from different places come together to form community. Throughout the ages, there has rarely been any more efficient way of socially adjusting a society, of making a society cohesive than religious communities, where people who are rich and poor meet, where people who are people of color and people of very much less color meet, where people who are old and young meet, where we celebrate our births and the couplings of people in love, where we mourn when people die. There has seldom been places of more cohesion, and that's because these are the places for connection. These are the places where you're asked to connect to your inner self, to the one that you really dream about being, where you're asked to use all of you, your mind, your heart, your soul, your strength, to praise and to exalt and to protest that idea that drives your life. And these are the places where you connect with other human beings that are not the ones that you generally wake up next to in the morning. So places of connection, instances of connection, contexts of connection. I think that we need it. And it doesn't really matter whether you seek that connection out of a religious conviction or an ideological conviction, but seek the place and seek the connection with another human being, because that's how we, as humanity, bring this world forward and make it better, make it lovelier, make it more livable, make it more human, and through making it more human, making it more divine. The deity I believe in is one that learns throughout the millennia. This is not something that you will hear a fundamentalist say, but on the other hand, it's quite obvious that I'm not one. But one of the things that God learned is that love and a fundamental human connection is not something that is easily done from the top to the bottom. It's not something that is easily done asymmetrically. And that's most likely what these artists are learning as well. If you want to connect, if you want someone to love you, you need to look them in the eye. You need to enter their space, to be on their level, to be someone that is relatable, which is the only reason why God decided to be born as a baby. The only reason why God decided to become human. So that we could love God with all our hearts and all our minds, with all our soul and all our strength. And so we're back with Jesus. Thank you.